There are few decisions in life that shape our destiny more profoundly than the person we choose to love and to marry. This one choice echoes through every corner of our being. It determines not just how we feel, day to day, but how we think, how we grow, even how we age. The right partner can be a source of emotional safety, mental clarity, and spiritual growth. The wrong one, however, can slowly erode our sense of self, drain our potential, and trap us in a cycle of emotional confusion. In America today, where the pressure to find someone is louder than ever and where half of all marriages still end in divorce, how do we make such a life-defining decision wisely? How do we separate attraction from alignment, chemistry from compatibility, intensity from depth? Carl Jung, one of the most profound thinkers in the field of psychology, believed that love is not merely a feeling but a mirror. A mirror that shows us not just who the other person is, but who we truly are. This video is not about relationship hacks or red flags. It is a deep dive into the inner architecture of love and marriage, what Jung called the sacred process of individuation through partnership. We'll explore why most people project their unhealed wounds onto their partners, how choosing someone based on superficial resonance can sabotage our emotional well-being, and how real love isn't found through fantasy but through conscious awakening. We'll talk about how the right person can multiply your emotional resilience, improve your mental health, and even elevate your economic stability, not because of what they do, but because of who they invite you to become. And most importantly, we'll uncover them. Signs deep, psychological signs that tell you when you found someone not just to love, but to grow with. If you've ever wondered why some relationships drain you while others build you, or if you're seeking not just passion, but a truly transformative partnership, this is the video you've been searching for. What you're about to discover may change not only how you see love, but how you see yourself. The ego falls in love, the soul recognizes itself. Why do so many relationships begin with fireworks and end with silence? Why do we fall for people who feel perfect at first only to realize months or years later that we never really knew them? According to Carl Jung, most people don't fall in love with another person. They fall in love with their own projection, an unconscious image of their ideal partner that they've been carrying inside for years. When someone comes along who matches even a fraction of that image, the mind fills in the rest. We believe we've found the one, but what we've really found is a mirror of our unhealed past or unmet needs. This is what Jung called the anima and animus. Projection, when we project the feminine or masculine ideal onto someone else, not for who they truly are, but for who our unconscious wants them to be. This is why so many relationships feel intense but confusing, magnetic but unstable. The ego wants a savior, a rescuer, a fantasy, but the soul, when it's ready, wants truth. And truth is never about perfection. It's about presence. Soul-aligned relationship begins not with chemistry, but with clarity. You feel seen, not flattered. You feel challenged, not controlled. You feel expanded, not consumed. When two people connect from the level of ego, they reinforce each other's illusions. But when two people meet from the level of soul, something sacred happens. Each begins to awaken parts of themselves they had forgotten or denied. Suddenly, love becomes less about comfort and more about evolution. It stops being about how someone makes you feel and starts being about who you become in their presence. So many people today confuse drama with passion, but trauma is what happens when the ego panics. Real love is quiet, grounding, and deeply intimate, not in a performative way, but in a way that allows you to rest in your own skin. It's not about needing someone to complete It's about finding someone who helps you remember that you were never incomplete to begin with. Before you can recognize a soul-aligned partner, you must be brave enough to stop projecting and start perceiving. Ask not what you want from love, but what love wants from you. Because love, when it is real, doesn't just give you someone to hold, it gives you someone who helps you hold yourself. And that is the beginning of everything. Don't look for comfort. Look for the one who illuminates your shadow. It's easy to believe that the right person will simply feel right. That they'll always make you happy. That they'll understand you without conflict. That they'll be the calm in your storm. But Carl Jung offered a far more uncomfortable and far more honest truth. He believed that the people who have the deepest impact on us are not those who soothe our ego, but those who awaken our unconscious. He called it the shadow, the rejected, unacknowledged, often repressed side of ourselves. Most of us carry this shadow like a hidden weight. It contains our shame, jealousy, anger, unresolved pain, and even our hidden brilliance. It is everything we do not want to face. And yet, in love, we are magnetized not just by what feels safe, but by those who mirror what is unresolved within us. This is why certain people ignite strong reactions in us, even if we don't fully understand why. That sense of, I feel something intense, but I'm not sure what it is, that's often your shadow reacting. And this, Jung argued, is not something to fear. It's something to pay attention to. The right partner isn't necessarily the one who calms your waters. Sometimes they stir them so you can see what's been lurking beneath the surface. They don't just show you who they are. They show you who you could become. But only if you're willing to meet yourself honestly. A shadow relationship, when approached unconsciously, can be toxic, volatile, even destructive. But when approached consciously with self-awareness and mutual respect, it becomes alchemical. It turns pain into wisdom, conflict into growth, shame into compassion. And that's the real work of love, not just finding someone who gives you butterflies, but finding someone who challenges you to integrate the parts of yourself you've long avoided. The wrong person triggers your trauma and leaves you more fragmented. The right person may also trigger your trauma, but they stay. They listen, they mirror, they hold. They don't fix you. They don't complete you. They walk beside you as you learn to hold space for your own healing. They become not your salvation, but your sacred mirror. Jung believed that we are drawn into relationship not just for affection, but for transformation. And that transformation is only possible when we stop choosing partners based on ego, satisfaction, and start recognizing the spiritual function of love. So if someone enters your life and they make you feel both seen and uncomfortable, both fascinated and exposed, both safe and stretched, pay attention. You may have found not just a partner, but a portal, a doorway back into your own depth. If you're brave enough to walk through it, what you'll discover on the other side isn't just intimacy, it's individuation. So many people spend their lives searching for the one, yet never pause to ask a far more urgent question. Am I the one I myself would want to be with? We want loyalty, depth, maturity, emotional intelligence, but do we embody those qualities ourselves? Jung believed that without inner clarity, we are bound to repeat the same emotional patterns, choosing people not out of wisdom, but out of compulsion. This is why so many fall in love with the same type over and over again, different faces, same wounds. The pattern isn't random. It's psychological. Until we understand the architecture of our own inner world, our desires, our defenses, our fears, we will keep choosing partners who match our dysfunction not our potential. To attract a soul-aligned partner, you must first be aligned with your own soul. You must be willing to walk through the fire of self-discovery, to name your wounds without shame, to face your path without projection, to claim your values with courage. This is the process Jung called individuation, becoming whole by integrating all parts of yourself, even the ones you were taught to hide. Individuation isn't just a spiritual journey. It's the most powerful form of emotional preparation you can undertake before loving someone else. Because once you've done the hard work of becoming conscious, your standards shift. Your vision sharpens. You no longer seek validation, you seek resonance. You don't chase chemistry, you wait for coherence. You begin to recognize the difference between someone who excites your nervous system and someone who calms your spirit. And the people you used to call irresistible begin to lose their power over you. It is here, in this clarity, that love becomes possible, not fantasy, not projection, but love that is rooted, awake, and reciprocal. And this is where most relationships fail, not because of incompatibility, but because of unconsciousness. When two incomplete selves try to merge, they create dependency. But when two whole individuals meet, they create evolution. You don't need someone to fill your emptiness. You need someone to meet you in your fullness. But to do that, you must first arrive there on your own. You must become the kind of person who would never settle for less than truth. The right person for you is not someone who makes you forget yourself. It's someone who reminds you who you are, especially when you've forgotten. So stop asking, where is my person? Start asking, who am I becoming? Because the answer to that question will decide who shows up and who stays. The right person won't reopen old wounds, they'll help you heal them. We all carry wounds. Some we remember. Others we've buried so deep we forget. They're even there until love brings them to the surface. Carl Jung described these wounds as complexes, emotionally charged patterns rooted in early life experiences, often shaped by our parents, culture, or past relationships. These complexes live just beneath the surface of our consciousness, silently, directing our behavior, our choices, and our reactions. And perhaps nowhere are they more activated than in romantic love. That's because intimate relationships reach into the most vulnerable parts of us. They stir the abandoned child, the rejected lover, the misunderstood soul, all the identity we once created to survive pain. The wrong partner will activate these wounds in a way that leaves you more fragmented. You'll feel like you're reliving your past, repeating the same fights, sinking into the same confusion, and walking on the same emotional eggshells. You won't be falling in love, you'll be falling back into trauma. But the right partner, they may still trigger your complexes because no one can truly love you without touching your tender places, but they won't exploit them. They won't shame you for being broken. They'll offer safety, space, and steadiness while you reconnect with the parts of yourself you had to abandon long ago. They'll ask questions instead of make assumptions. They'll stay present instead of disappearing. They'll hold you through the storm instead of becoming one. And that presence over time begins to rewrite the story. Slowly, your nervous system learns that connection doesn't have to mean chaos. That vulnerability doesn't have to mean abandonment. That love can be a source of healing, not harm. Jung believed that true relationship is a crucible, a sacred container where transformation happens. But that transformation is only possible when both partners bring awareness to their wounds rather than projecting them onto each other. It's not about finding someone perfect. It's about finding someone conscious. Someone who knows they're not here to fix you, but to walk beside you while you fix yourself. That kind of love isn't glamorous. It won't always look like the movies, but it will feel like oxygen after years of holding your breath. It will feel like coming home to a version of yourself you forgot existed. So, if someone triggers your fears, but also holds your hand while you name them, if they see your worst moments and don't run, don't dismiss that. That's not weakness. That's sacred ground. And maybe, just maybe, it's the beginning of it. Love that doesn't repeat the past, but rewrites it. Real love is not a safe haven. It's a fire that transforms you. It's a beautiful illusion to think that once you find the one, life will finally become peaceful. That love will be soft, simple, and secure. That everything difficult within you will dissolve and the hard parts of life will finally make sense. But Carl Jung saw love through a different lens. He believed that true partnership is not a conclusion. It's a crucible. It is not where your journey ends, it's where your most powerful transformation begins. Jung compared love to an alchemical process, a sacred fire where ego, identity, and past conditioning are broken down not to destroy you, but to reveal something truer beneath the surface. And if you're with the right person, this fire doesn't consume you. It refines you. The right relationship doesn't rescue you from discomfort. It invites you deeper into it so that you can meet yourself in places you've never dared to go. In this kind of love, you don't just grow old together. You grow up together. You evolve from survival into self-awareness, from coping into creating, from reacting into responding. And this evolution doesn't happen by accident. It happens by design, by two people who choose not just each other but growth itself. Together, you learn to hold. Paradox, love and anger, attraction and resistance, intimacy and space. You learn that harmony doesn't mean absence of conflict, it means conscious conflict, where both people are willing to face hard truths without running away. You learn that commitment isn't about staying the same. It's about growing in the same direction. This kind of partnership doesn't always feel easy. In fact, it often feels like work. But it is sacred work. Because in that fire, you begin to shed the roles you've played: people pleaser, avoider, overachiever, fixer, and step into who you actually are. You stop needing to be loved in order to feel worthy, and start loving as a natural expression of your wholeness. Jung wrote that the meeting of two personalities is like the contact of two chemical substances. If there is any reaction, both are transformed. Real love changes you, not by force, not by pressure, but by presence. The presence of another human being who dares to see all of you and stays. Someone who doesn't flinch at your fire, but sees the gold that can be formed through it. If you're looking for love that will keep everything easy, you'll miss the love that makes everything meaningful. Because the love that lasts isn't the one that avoids the fire. It's the one that learns to dance it with courage, humility, and the deep knowing that this is what you were made for. The signs you've found a soul-aligned partner are quieter than you think. Most of us are taught to look for loud signs in love. Fireworks, instant attraction, butterflies in the stomach. But Carl Jung's work reminds us the soul speaks more quietly. The deeper the connection, the less it tends to scream for attention. That's because true resonance doesn't shock you. It settles you. It doesn't create chaos. It creates clarity. One of the most overlooked signs that you've found a soul-aligned partner is a deep sense of calm. Not because everything is perfect, but because you feel like you can finally exhale. You don't feel the need to perform, to to impress or to hide. You feel like yourself, and not just the curated version of yourself, but the full, messy, honest version. You can share your thoughts without fear. You can sit in silence without discomfort. You can be seen in your vulnerability without being shamed. These are not small things. They are rare. Another sign is the feeling that growth is welcome, not feared. In many relationships, one person evolving can trigger insecurity or resistance in the other. But when two people are truly aligned, growth is celebrated. You challenge each other, not out of control, but out of love. You hold space for change, even when it's uncomfortable. You support each other's expansion, not because you agree on it, everything, but because you both value what is real more than what is easy. Jung described this as konjunktio, the sacred union, not of two perfect people, but of two souls who are ready to integrate the opposites within themselves and then within each other. You'll also notice that time with this person doesn't drain you, it restores you. You don't leave feeling confused or uncertain. You leave feeling anchored. That doesn't mean there's no tension, no arguments, no hard moments. But even in the friction, there's a deeper thread of respect. You don't fight to win. You fight to understand. You don't weaponize each other's pain. You work to transmute it. And above all, there is consistency. The right partner doesn't disappear when things get hard. They don't withhold affection as punishment. They don't retreat when your truth makes them uncomfortable. They stay. They adapt. They care in ways that aren't always romantic, but are always reliable. So if you're with someone and you're constantly second-guessing yourself, walking on eggshells, or waiting for them next emotional roller coaster, that's not a sign of passion. That's a nervous system responding to instability. But if you feel safe to be seen, free to speak, and inspired to evolve, you may have found something real, something rare, something worth protecting. Marriage is not just a commitment, it's a psychological journey. To many, marriage is seen as a milestone, a public declaration of love, a contract of stability. But Carl Jung saw it as something far more profound, far more demanding. He believed that marriage is not just a relationship between two people. It's a psychological container, a sacred vessel in which the deepest forces of the unconscious are activated. When we enter into marriage, we don't just bring our conscious desires, we bring our shadows, our complexes, our archetypes. And unless we recognize this, the very institution meant to unite us can slowly unravel us. One of Jung's most powerful contributions was the concept of archetypes, universal, inherited, patterns of human behavior and emotion that live deep in the psyche. In marriage, these archetypes come alive. You may find yourself suddenly projecting the mother onto your wife, expecting her to nurture and heal what your own mother never did, or the father onto your husband, hoping he'll finally provide the strength and approval you craved as a child. The inner child, the victim, the savior, the betrayer, all of it, then begin to surface, not because you married the wrong person, but because you've stepped into a space sacred enough to trigger your healing. And this is where many relationships collapse. Not because love is gone, but because the unconscious is ignored. Instead of facing the parts of ourselves being activated, we blame the other. We call it incompatibility. But often, it's just unintegrated pain. Marriage is not a finish line. It's a furnace. It melts down. Illusion breaks apart ego and tests the very limits of your willingness to grow. But when approached consciously, it becomes one of the most powerful catalysts for inner transformation. You begin to see your partner not just as someone to love, but as someone who reflects your unloved parts. You begin to see arguments not as battles to win, but as lessons in projection, reactivity, and self-awareness. Jung once wrote, "The meeting of two personalities is like the contact of two chemical substances. If there's any reaction, both are transformed." And this is the essence of marriage, not comfort, not fantasy, but mutual transformation through intimacy. A real marriage is not about avoiding conflict. It's about learning to suffer well together, to disagree with dignity, to rupture and repair, to witness each other at your most broken and still choose to stay. Because when you do, something extraordinary happens. Not just in the relationship, but in your psyche. You become more whole, more human, more real. And that is the kind of love that doesn't just last, it liberates. The right person often appears when you've stopped searching. It seems paradoxical. We spend years yearning for the right person, reading books, swiping apps, journaling intentions, and yet they rarely show up when we're chasing them. Instead, they tend to arrive at the most unexpected moment, when we're finally at peace with being alone, when we've stopped trying to complete ourselves through someone else, when we've come home to who we are. Carl Jung called this phenomenon synchronicity, a meaningful coincidence that defies logic but feels profoundly right. He believed that when our inner world aligns, the outer world begins to mirror that harmony. It's not magic. It's depth psychology. Because as long as we're operating from a place of lack, neediness, or fantasy, we don't actually recognize what's real. We attract people who reflect our wounds, not our wholeness. But when we begin to individuate, to reclaim our energy from past attachments, to honor our solitude, to live in alignment with our truth, we send out a very different frequency. We stop looking for someone to rescue us, and we start radiating the kind of presence that invites a different kind of love. This shift is subtle, but powerful. You no longer ask, "Why doesn't anyone love me?" You begin to ask, "What kind of love do I truly want to give and receive?" You no longer settle for intensity, you seek integrity. You no longer mold yourself to fit others, you trust that the right person will see you without disguise. And then, seemingly out of nowhere, someone appears. Not a fantasy, not a savior, but someone whose presence feels strangely familiar, as if your souls had already spoken long before your mouths ever did. Someone who doesn't complete you, but reminds you that you were whole all along. Jung taught that when the unconscious becomes conscious, we no longer call it fate, we call it choice. And this applies to love as well. When you've done the inner work, your outer life begins to shift in ways that feel guided. You find yourself at the right place, at the right time, meeting the right person not because you forced it, because you became ready. And that readiness has nothing to do with perfection. It has everything to do with honesty. You've stopped pretending. You've stopped performing. You've started living from the inside out. And the universe, whatever name you give it, responds to that truth with synchronicity. So if you're still searching, take a breath. Come back to yourself. Heal. Build. Grow. Not for love, but for life. Because when you begin to live as your truest self, love has a strange way of finding you often when you least expect it and most deserve it. Love is not found in another, it's awakened through them. We began this journey with a question: how do you find someone truly aligned with your soul, someone who won't just love you, but grow with you along the way? We explored how love is not born from fantasy, but from inner clarity. How the people who challenge us most often carry the keys to our deepest transformation. and how choosing the right partner isn't just about romance, it's about resonance. But now, as we reach the end, Carl Jung leaves us with one final radical truth. Real love is not something you find out there. It is something that awakens in you through another. The person you choose to walk with in life is not your destination. They are a mirror, a portal, a sacred fire. They reveal not just how much you can be loved, but how much of yourself you're willing to face. Your deepest fears, your forgotten dreams, your unlived potential. The right partner doesn't just amplify your joy. They invite your truth. They make it harder for you to stay asleep to your own life. Jung believed that every soul longs for wholeness, and relationship, when approached consciously, becomes one of the most powerful paths to that wholeness. Not because it's easy, but because it forces you to meet the parts of yourself you've spent a lifetime avoiding. The pain, the patterns, the projections. And in that meeting, if you are brave enough, love becomes something far beyond compatibility. It becomes communion, a soul-to-soul recognition that transcends words. In that space, you don't fall in love. You rise in love. You rise into maturity, into awareness, into responsibility, not just for your partner's heart, but for your own. Because you finally understand, no one can complete you. No one is here to rescue you. The right person doesn't save you. They see you. And that kind of seeing, that full-bodied, unconditional, soul-level recognition is what changes everything. So if you've spent years searching for someone to make you feel whole, pause. Turn inward. Ask yourself, have I become the kind of person who can receive the love I long for? Because the more you live as your true self, the more clearly you'll see who belongs beside you. And when that person comes, it won't feel like magic. It will feel like truth, like clarity, like something in you whispering, finally, I remember. Not because they arrived to complete your story, but because they stepped into it exactly when you stopped waiting for someone else to write the ending. Love, real love, begins not when you find them, but when you find you. And from that place, everything changes.